Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really diving into the world of YouTube intros, trying to figure out how to make yours stand out and keep those viewers hooked. You've given us some great material to work with.
Yeah.
So, as our resident video production guru, what's the first thing that jumps out at you from all this info?
What's fascinating is how much emphasis is placed on those first few seconds. It's like we're talking 5, maybe 7 seconds max to make an impact.
Wow.
The research actually shows that intros under 7 seconds, they tend to have significantly higher viewer retention. It's a constant reminder that in our digital world, you've got to hook people fast.
It's like that old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
But for YouTube. Okay, so let's break down why these entries are so important.
Well, think of it like a movie trailer.
Okay.
A good trailer makes you want to see the whole film, right? Your intro is that mini teaser for your entire video. If it doesn't grab attention, viewers will just move on.
And we've all been there endlessly scrolling through YouTube, right?
Exactly. The research shows that you risk losing up to 20% of viewers if your intro drags past the 10-second mark. So brevity is king. Those first few seconds are your chance to hook viewers and make them want to invest their time in the rest of your content.
It's almost like a microcosm of marketing as a whole. Grab attention, build interest, make them want more. And speaking of making them want more, I noticed a lot of these resources talk about branding. It's got to be your style in those few seconds.
Absolutely. It's not just about length. It's about making it scream you. The material makes a great point about tailoring your intro to your niche. A gaming channel might go for a fast-paced, energetic vibe, while a tech reviewer might choose a sleek, minimalist approach.
Like those no-text intros from Intro Vibe that we saw.
Right.
They're all about clean visuals and subtle movement.
Those are a fantastic example of how powerful simplicity can be. And they're not just for tech either. The source material shows how easily they can be adapted for different channels using logos, colors, you name it. No need to be a professional video editor.
It reminds me of how impactful good design can be even in small doses. Like we inherently associate that minimalist no-text style with being professional and modern. There's a reason big companies are always simplifying their logos.
Precisely. It conveys a sense of sophistication and confidence. And what's really interesting is that even with no text, you can still convey a lot through subtle animation and audio. Even a simple sound effect can make a world of difference.
It's like adding salt to a dish a little bit enhances the flavor without overpowering it. Speaking of enhancing, what about those intros that go overboard? We've all seen those train wreck intros, right? The ones with a million effects crammed into 5 seconds.
No, absolutely. It's like they're trying to fit an entire movie into the trailer. The source material actually shows a few examples of what not to do, and it's hilarious. Overly long, way too many effects music that doesn't fit the content. It's a recipe for disaster.
And the worst part is it's distracting. Instead of getting excited about the video, you're just left feeling overwhelmed and confused. It totally takes away from the actual content.
It's the opposite of what you want. Instead of enticing viewers, you're pushing them away. And speaking of things that push viewers away, another common mistake is inconsistency. If your intro has a completely different vibe from your usual content, it's jarring. It's like walking into the wrong movie.
Talk about a mood killer. It's all about creating a cohesive brand identity, right? So for someone who's completely new to this or maybe just needs a refresh, what are the key steps to customizing these no-text templates from Intro Vibe?
Well, the great news is they're incredibly user-friendly. The source material breaks it down into super easy steps, starting with adding your logo, and you literally just drag and drop it into the template.
Nice.
It's incredibly intuitive, even for beginners.
No fancy software required. I love that.
Exactly. From there, you can choose music that fits your video's style. They even have a library of royalty-free music built right in, so you don't have to worry about copyright issues. And timing is crucial, too. You don't want your intro to feel disjointed from the rest of your video. They've made it so you can trim or extend the clip as needed, which is super helpful.
So you're not stuck with a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. And of course, you want to make sure those colors and effects match your overall brand aesthetic for that visual consistency we talked about. It's like tying the whole package together with a nice bow.
And here's where it gets really cool. They offer these templates as free downloads. Free. It's incredible.
It's a fantastic opportunity for creators to experiment with different styles and find what works best for them without breaking the bank. What I find most valuable is that they're not just throwing templates at you, they're actually guiding you through the entire process, from understanding why intros are important to customizing them for maximum impact.
It's like having a mini course on YouTube intro creation right at your fingertips.
Exactly. And the best part is you can start experimenting right away. No need to be intimidated, just jump in and have some fun with it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are knee-deep in this, huh? Like really trying to figure out how to craft that perfect YouTube intro, those few seconds that can make or break your video.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack, right? It really is a microcosm of content creation as a whole, but with even higher stakes because you have such a limited time to work with.
Yeah, for sure. And you know me, I love a good deep dive. So far, we've talked a lot about the technical and aesthetic aspects of creating intros. Things like visual branding, music choice, calls to action.
But all crucial elements, no doubt. But here's where it gets really interesting, the psychology behind it all. An intro's effectiveness also hinges on a deeper understanding of how our brains work and what makes us want to keep watching.
Okay, now we're talking. Hit me with those psychological secrets.
One powerful tool is the principle of curiosity. Humans are inherently curious beings. We're hardwired to seek out answers and resolve unanswered questions. Think of those cliffhanger endings in TV shows. They leave you wanting more, right?
Totally. But how can creators tap into that natural curiosity within those first few seconds? Because you don't have a whole episode to work with. You've got like, what, 10 seconds max?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about creating intrigue without giving too much away. You want to pique the viewer's interest and make them think, I need to see what happens next.
Could you give us a concrete example? I'm a sucker for a good visual.
Absolutely. Let's say you're making a video about baking a cake.
Okay.
Instead of starting with a shot of all the ingredients, what if you open with a quick shot of the finished cake looking all delicious and then rewind to the beginning of the process?
Ooh, that's smart. It's like,
Yeah.
here's the goal. Now watch how we get there. It plays with expectations.
Exactly. Or imagine you're a travel vlogger. Instead of that typical shot of you smiling in front of a landmark, start with a close-up of a weird, interesting object you found on your trip. Then pull back to reveal the location, and you...
When you're telling the story of how you found it.
Exactly.
Ooh, it's like those movie trailers where they don't even tell you the plot. They just give you these intriguing snippets.
Precisely. It sparks that curiosity and makes viewers feel like they're about to embark on a journey of discovery with you. And trust me, in the world of YouTube, a little mystery goes a long way.
Okay, so curiosity, piqued. What other psychological tricks can creators have up their sleeves?
Another powerful tool is social proof. We're social creatures by nature, and we look to others for cues on what's good, what's worth watching.
Right, like if a video has a ton of views, we automatically assume it's got to be good.
Exactly. So how do you leverage that in those first few seconds? One effective technique, even if you're just starting out, is to highlight positive comments from previous videos.
Ooh, so like a quick animation of comment popping up that says something like, this channel is amazing.
Exactly. Or even a simple, subtle animation of your subscriber count ticking upwards. It's not about being boastful. It's about showing that other people enjoy your content, so they probably will too. It builds instant credibility.
It's like that concept of fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be left out of something great, right? Okay, so we've talked about what TO do. What about the don't T's? What are some common psychological pitfalls to avoid when designing intros?
That's such a good question because it's often overlooked. One of the biggest mistakes is creating intros that are too long or too cluttered. Remember, our brains crave simplicity and efficiency.
Oh, tell me about it. We've all been there, stuck watching an intro that feels like it's never going to end. I'm already clicking skip ad in my head.
Exactly. And that's a problem. A long, drawn-out intro can actually backfire. Instead of building excitement, it creates impatience and frustration, making viewers more likely to click away before your video even starts.
It's like the saying, get in and get out. Make your point and get to the good stuff.
Exactly. And that's why understanding visual hierarchy is so crucial, especially in those first few seconds. You want to guide the viewer's eye through the information in a way that feels natural and effortless.
Okay, break it down for us. What exactly is visual hierarchy? It sounds kind of intimidating.
It's simpler than it sounds. It's basically about making sure the most important elements stand out. In an intro, that might be your logo, your channel name, or a key visual that represents your brand. You achieve it through things like size, color, contrast, and animation.
So, for example, making your logo slightly bigger than other elements, or using a color that really pops against the background.
Exactly. And don't forget about motion. Our eyes are naturally drawn to movement, so even subtle animations can help guide the viewer's attention to the most important information.
It's like you're choreographing a dance for their eyeballs. Love it.
Okay, so we're being mindful of length, avoiding clutter, using visual hierarchy. Anything else creators should keep in mind to make those first few seconds count?
Yes. Remember how we talked about intros being like mini movie trailers? Well, just like a good trailer, your intro should tell a story, even if it's just a very short one.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes so much sense. Our brains are hardwired for stories.
Exactly. So even within those few seconds, try to create a narrative arc. Introduce the characters, which might be your channel's personalities, or even just your logo and branding elements. Set the scene. Is it a high-energy gaming video, a calming travel vlog, a sleek tech review? And hint at the conflict or resolution to come. So you're saying there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end-all within those first few seconds. That's some next-level storytelling.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Even a simple visual progression can do it. Let's say you're a cooking channel. You might start with a close-up of raw ingredients, transition to a montage of chopping and mixing, and end with a shot of the finished dish, beginning, middle, end, story told.
And it creates a sense of anticipation, like, I need to see how they made that. It's brilliant.
Exactly. And speaking of brilliance, don't underestimate the power of emotion. We've talked about logic and visuals, but emotions are what truly move people to action.
It's true. A good movie trailer doesn't just tell you what the movie's about. It makes you feel something. Excitement, fear, intrigue.
Exactly. So ask yourself, what feeling do I want my viewers to have when they watch my intro? Do you want them to feel pumped up, relaxed, intrigued? Once you know the feeling, you can tailor your visuals, music, and pacing to evoke that emotion.
So if I'm a fitness channel, I might use upbeat music and inspiring visuals of people achieving their fitness goals. But if I'm a meditation channel, I'll go for calming music and serene imagery.
Precisely. It's about creating an emotional connection with your viewers from the very first frame. Because when we feel something, we're more likely to remember it, share it, and engage with it.
And engagement is the name of the game in the YouTube world. I'm loving all these insights. It's amazing how much thought and strategy goes into something as seemingly simple as a YouTube intro.
It's a testament to how much the digital landscape has evolved. In today's fast-paced world, you need to grab attention from the get-go, and a well-crafted intro is your secret weapon.
So it's not just about looking cool, it's about understanding the psychology behind what makes people click watch and subscribe.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, with all this focus on those first few seconds, what happens after the intro ends? How do you maintain that momentum and keep viewers hooked?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Capturing attention is one thing, but keeping it is a whole other ballgame, and that's what we'll explore next.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey, really exploring the art and the science behind crafting the perfect YouTube intro, those crucial few seconds that can make or break your video.
It's been fascinating, hasn't it? We've dug into the technical aspects, the psychology, the strategy, but now comes the fun part.
Ooh, I'm all ears. What's the fun part?
Putting it all into practice. We can talk all day about best practices, but the real magic happens when you take those principles and make them your own.
So true. It's easy to get caught up in all the rules, but at the end of the day, you don't want your intro to feel like some cookie-cutter template, you know? It needs you in it.
Exactly. Think of those guidelines as a springboard for your own creativity, not a straitjacket, Find what feels authentic to your brand and your style.
Okay, so how do you suggest creators find that balance? How do you walk that line between following best practices and letting your own creative freak flag fly?
It's all about experimentation. Don't be afraid to try different approaches. See what resonates with your audience. Maybe you try a minimalist intro one week, then a more high-energy comedic one the next. See what sticks.
You're reminding me of those chefs who are always experimenting with new flavor combinations.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most unexpected pairings end up being the most delicious.
Exactly. And remember, your intro doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, sometimes a little bit of imperfection can make it even more endearing and relatable.
100%. Like those bloopers that make us laugh out loud.
Mm-hmm.
They remind us that there are real people behind these videos, not just perfectly polished robots.
Exactly. So embrace those happy accidents, those moments of spontaneity. It's those little glimpses of humanity that make your content truly unique.
And you know what else I think is super important? And we haven't even touched on this yet.
Right.
But accessibility. We should be making sure those intros are enjoyable for everyone, even viewers who might have visual or auditory impairments.
You are so right. This a crucial consideration that often gets overlooked. But thankfully, there are simple things creators can do to make their intros more accessible.
Like what? Give us the goods.
Well, for starters, captions. Always include captions, not just for your main video, but for your intro as well. It's a small step that makes a world of difference for viewers who are deaf or hard of hearing.
And I imagine audio descriptions could be helpful too for viewers who are blind or visually impaired.
Absolutely. Providing a brief audio description of what's happening visually in your intro can help ensure that everyone can follow along and enjoy the experience.
It's all about being mindful and inclusive in our creative process. I love it.
And don't forget, YouTube has built-in accessibility features that can help as well, like the option to adjust playback speed or enable captions.
So no excuses for not making those intros accessible to everyone. Now, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, the importance of analytics. We can have all the creative inspiration in the world, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie.
They certainly don't. Think of analytics as your secret weapon for understanding your audience and refining your approach.
So for those creators who might be new to the world of analytics, what are some key metrics they should be paying attention to when it comes to their intros?
One of the most important is audience retention. This tells you what percentage of viewers are sticking around after those first few seconds. If you're seeing a steep drop-off early on, it's a clear sign that something's not working.
Time to head back to the drawing board. So it's not about being discouraged by those numbers. It's about using them as a tool for improvement. What else should creators be looking at?
Click-through rate is another big one, especially if you're using your intro to promote other videos or calls to action. If people aren't clicking, you might need to make those calls to action more enticing or visually prominent.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between being informative and not being too salesy. Now, I know analytics dashboards can seem intimidating, but thankfully YouTube has made it super user-friendly.
They really have. And there are tons of great resources available online to help you understand the different metrics and how to use them to your advantage.
So no excuses for not diving into those analytics. Knowledge is power, people.
I love that. And speaking of knowledge, don't underestimate the power of good old-fashioned audience feedback. Read those comments, engage with your viewers, and don't be afraid to ask for their input.
Because sometimes the best ideas come from the people who are actually watching your content.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. You're creating for your audience, so don't be afraid to involve them in the process.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the technical aspects of intro creation, the psychology, the strategy, the importance of analytics, accessibility. Phew, I'm feeling incredibly informed and hopefully a little inspired too.
As you should be. Creating compelling content is a journey, not a destination. There's always something new to learn, something new to try. But at its core, it's about connecting with people and sharing your passion with the world.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to resurface from this deep dive into the world of YouTube intros.
It's been a pleasure exploring these depths with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and inspiration to take your own YouTube intros to the next level.
Remember, those first few seconds are precious, so make them count.
And don't be afraid to have some fun with it.
Until next time, keep creating.
And on that note, we'll catch you in the next deep dive.